Surprising turn of events today in our nation's capital, with just 2 weeks left to go in the term of office for President Donald Trump. He is still denying that he lost that election, contesting the results on a variety of grounds. This is causing quite a bit of drama and unfortunately led to some violence today and at least one fatality. For those of you who aren't aware, today is the day that the U.S. Congress is supposed to certify the electoral votes from the election, and we'll get to that in just a minute, what all that means. But we are going to walk you through how our system is supposed to work, and also show you some of what happened today and give you the latest information we have available about the situation and its implications. So we'll start right off with this is our founding document. Part of the problem here in the United States leads to certain states being ignored in the presidential elections, like New Jersey, where we have consistently had the Democratic Party candidate win the election, and therefore, all of our electoral votes are presumed almost to go to that candidate, and therefore, candidates in both of the major parties don't really try very hard to win New Jersey because they see it as a foregone conclusion that the Democratic candidate will win, and since the 90s they've been correct about that. So there are a few states that are called swing states where the races tend to be closer between the Democratic and Republican candidates, and so those states get a lot of attention, a lot of campaigning is done there, and ultimately the issues that those states care about take more of a role in the election, and ultimately where we end up is this winner-take-all system, leading to a lot of confusion and not necessarily the person who has the most votes in the nation getting the presidency. We've seen that happen a few times, including 2016 when Donald Trump lost. The popular vote did not get as many votes as his Democratic opponent, Hillary Clinton, but he did get more electoral votes. So going back to this map, what's called a faithless elector. Basically, the electors are people who get to actually cast these votes. All of us do not cast an actual vote for president when we go and push a name on the November ballot there. We are actually voting for a group of people who the candidate we want to be president has picked to serve as electors. They have to live in the state, and they are essentially promising that when the time comes in December that they will vote for the candidate that picked them to be an elector. And ultimately the general election held in November is to decide which group of electors go to their state house on that day this year, December 14th. And today, January the 6th, happens to be the day that the Constitution calls for those votes to be opened up in the place where the House of Representatives hold their meetings in the U.S. Capitol. It's called a joint session of the Congress because both the House and the Senate meet there. And there's actually a policy we're going to show you here for how to count those. Who wins, right? They're supposed to decide which electoral votes count. And so in the past there have sometimes been disputes over certain states. Sometimes we've seen states send two different sets of electors if, for instance, the governor of a state disagrees with the legislature of a state. But this is all exceedingly rare. This joint session that was supposed to take place today was generally sort of ceremonial, goes through without much drama. Occasionally there's an objection. Sometimes the objection actually causes a debate to happen, but nothing like we've ever seen today, and we're going to get to that in just a second for everybody who's out there watching this. So today at 1 p.m. was the joint session. They were meeting in the U.S. House of Representatives. Both houses were there, and Mike Pence, being the vice president, actually is supposed to preside over this counting process, and there is some discussion about how much power he has to make a decision about what to count or not count. Indeed, a member of Congress sued the vice president to try to make him take more authority and overturn some of these election results from states where there's disputes. Obviously this year, because of the pandemic, a lot of states changed their rules for how they were going to run elections, trying to limit the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19. Many of those changes were controversial, but nevertheless, the states all counted their votes. There were disputes that were often brought to court, and judges in those states and at the federal level ruled one way or the other on which ballots to count, which ballots not to count, and ultimately the states all certified their elections on time and got those electors to come to their state houses on December 14th. Those votes are now cast as a matter of record. They are officially cast by the electors, and the only question left is whether Congress will accept them or not. And of course, you need a good reason not to. So the rules here that we'll go back to from the Congressional Research. Debate or dispute, but when they got to Arizona, there was a written objection from a member of both houses, and so under the rules that the Congress has adopted for dealing with this joint session, they did recess to their respective houses. So they had two meetings going on at once. The senators left where the House normally meets and went to their own chamber, had their debate over the Arizona electoral votes. Again, it's a dozen members of the Republican Party, give or take, that are objecting to these votes being counted, and the clear majority, all the Democrats and most of the Republicans in the Senate are against that. They don't think it's a wise move to challenge these election results at this time in this manner, but they were about an hour into their discussions in both the Senate and the House when chaos broke out, and protesters who are calling for the election result to be changed or investigated, or for the outcome to be overturned, and for Donald Trump to continue being the president. Those protesters busted into the U.S. Capitol at 2:15 p.m., forced the both houses to stop what they were doing and take a urgent recess. Members in some of the Congress were sometimes told to shelter in place, stay where they are. Some of them were moved out of the places they were. It was a very chaotic scene. Several office buildings that are, where the members have their offices were evacuated, and there was an explosive device found at the Republican National Committee headquarters. So it all started this morning with a big rally that President Trump held about 10 blocks away from where this, where the Capitol is and where this 1 p.m. meeting was going to happen. And inevitably, people from that rally made their way over to the Capitol. The crowds overpowered the U.S. Capitol Police, who are in charge of providing security for that building and the neighboring area where so many congressional offices are located. And ultimately, we are told the latest is at 5:40 p.m. the Capitol has been secured, which is more than 3 hours after the chaos erupted. Not only was there that explosive that was found and detonated safely, but there was also, sadly, a fatal shooting in the Capitol building. There were reportedly shots fired into the chamber where the House of Representatives meets, and it appears that a woman was fatally shot. We're not sure who did the shooting. We're not sure who this person was, but there was at least one death in today's chaos. The mayor of Washington, D.C. has imposed a curfew, which goes into effect for the entire city of Washington, D.C., the entire District of Columbia, from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. The House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate have said that they intend to meet as soon as possible today to continue with hearing the objections and ultimately making their way through the Electoral College votes. It's a sort of scary situation for anybody who cares about our democracy here and the rights that we all have to choose our leaders. So we're going to just show you a few things here that are going on. The try to get accurate information. Again, the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate had to suspend their counting of the votes for the Electoral College at about 2:15 today. So we have been keeping an eye on that. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. Again, they intend to come back, and after the lockdown is lifted, when the sergeant at arms says that it's safe, the House and the Senate want to continue with this work. They understand that it's very dangerous if something like this could stop the work or prevent them from actually certifying the results of the election. But of course, going into this, it was understood that the challenges were highly unlikely to be successful, because everybody kind of already made up their mind where they, what they thought about this, and there just were not enough people to challenge in order to change the result or prevent the 270 electoral votes from being counted for Joe Biden. Again, he's well over 300, the states that are contested in many cases have already looked into all the claims that have been brought up about alleged cheating and other irregularities or concerns about the way they conducted their elections. These, in many cases, already adjudicated by courts at different levels. Famously, the president has a legal team that has pushed these theories in the courts and been overwhelmingly unsuccessful with getting courts to prevent the results from being used in the Electoral College. And again, as we brought to you on that day, December 14th, without a single faithless elector changing who they support, these votes were cast, and the results are clear that Joe Biden not only won more popular votes than Donald Trump, but that he actually had a pretty convincing edge on the electoral votes. So again, we are witnessing history here where the normal process of certifying the election is being called into question because the current president cannot admit that he lost, cannot state that he lost, and ultimately cannot tell his supporters to stand down in this important moment where power is supposed to transition. Of course, Donald Trump has never been one to admit when he is wrong, and never been one to follow normal rules like everybody else in politics and government. So it's not a total surprise that this is happening, but it is surprising how the police were able to be overpowered by these traitors, quite frankly, people who are trying to overthrow the democracy that we have. And so we're going to continue to follow this. The president won't be making any further comments. He did release a video, a 1-minute video, after President-elect Biden made remarks calling on President Trump to speak, address the nation, and call this off. The president did release a video that said go home to these folks, but he did also say he loves them and they are special, did not condemn any of the wrongdoing today. We are going to show you just another quick visual that you can find on my Twitter profile, again at Charlie4Change, and this is one way that people were able to get into disturbing video from the U.S. Capitol. That is someone using a riot shield to smash open a window, possibly on the first floor of the Capitol, and you can see folks climbing through the window after that breach. One of possibly many breaches today at the Capitol, where police were overwhelmed by the protesters there to support the president and ultimately call for a coup. A lot of people have been talking about this, that the president of the United States is not sane, or not in good mental health. So it's somewhat expected that he would not be able to admit defeat, even in the face of clear defeat. Certainly, there's a lot of changes that were made this year to the elections, and he's got his gripes about those changes, and had certainly before the election been putting on the record those complaints. But at the end of the day, I think that most reasonable people would agree that if the results went a different way, the president would defend the results and say how they are should be honored and respected. But if the verdict goes against him, he usually doesn't cope with that by admitting what the real situation is. Of course, he has a habit of blaming other people or coming up with excuses, and we've seen it many, many times since he's been the president, but even before then, when he's taken issue with things like whether or not he would win an Emmy Award, he's contested those kinds of less significant, less important decisions. But of course, being on the losing end of a bitter re-election fight, he is just not mentally able to cope with the outcome, to admit what has happened, and so instead he has been repeating these over-the-top claims. Of course, we've heard over the weekend him trying to intimidate election official in Georgia on an hour-long phone call, ranting and raving about different theories he has for things that were done in that state, and asking that official to, quote, find the 11,000 plus votes that he would need to defeat Joe Biden. Even at this late stage, clearly the president not in good mental health, losing control of the narrative, and ultimately losing control of reality and disassociating from what is actually happening. So we will see what the president does next. He certainly has told the press he will not be commenting further today, and he also is, for the first time ever, banned from Twitter for the 12-hour period that began a little while ago. Of course, he's famous for using that platform, the platform that we were just showing you some posts on, to get his message out. In recent months, the platform has taken to posting disclaimers or corrections to his tweets, especially the ones that make unsubstantiated claims about the election or state that he actually won the election. But now, for the first time, they've actually deactivated his account. He's not going to be able to post until 12 hours after he deletes the 3 tweets that he made today, including that video that we discussed earlier. So that's again, uncharted territory for our country, and for this platform, and for our society. We've got a pretty unprecedented situation on our hands, and was hoping to have a little fun on tonight's broadcast and show you guys our new studio and talk about some of the important local issues that we've been covering here. But this just seemed like not the right day to do that, and I wanted to address you all directly, give you what I know about the situation, which is not all that much. But I've been following it, and I have some thoughts that I wanted to share with you. So I wanted to thank all of you for watching this. This has been a special report on the chaos at the Capitol. Again, both houses of Congress forced to stop the counting of the votes in the presidential election on account of an angry mob storming the U.S. Capitol. We are told that the Capitol is under control. There was at least one fatality. The city is under a curfew there. and the House and Senate are going to try to hold another meeting or reconvene the meeting that they abruptly adjourned at around 2:15 today when the security breach occurred. Wishing you all very restful evening tonight as we all cope with the reality that an attempted coup has been begun here in the United States of America, and we hope and pray that the forces of democracy and logic and good reason will prevail, and that ultimately we will see a peaceful transition of power without any further violence. Calling on everyone in Washington, D.C. to stay safe wherever you are. Try to stay out of trouble and not get into any altercations or cause any further problems. We've had enough for today, and please do be safe wherever you are, and stay tuned to New Brunswick Today, because we will continue to cover this, and we'll continue to cover it with a focus on how it impacts us here in New Jersey and the city we love, New Brunswick. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe.